Welcome to the Rowdy Podcast. Today, I have my friend and the CFO of a very good crypto company. I have Eric with me today. Hi, Eric. Will you introduce yourself to my audience?
Hey, Ashwarya. I'm Eric Waisane. I'm the CFO of High Vault Corporation and one of the co-founders of Hydro Finance, host of the Secret Code podcast, and pretty much a degen on Secret Network.
So, can you give us a brief of how did you get started in the crypto space?
Yeah, so my background's in gaming, game theory, casinos, everything to do with kind of economic theory. My academic background is in economic philosophy. And so after getting banned as a card counter everywhere, I was looking for other ways to invest, got into crypto, found Secret Network because it doesn't make sense to adopt for businesses to integrate crypto, which I expect they will, without privacy. And they're really the only ones doing computational private smart contract platforms. And so being there with some podcasting experience, they sponsored me to start a podcast. I networked my way up, and there's actually use for economic philosophy, go figure, in crypto. So I was able to kind of start some of my own products and platforms. And now I'm building Hydro Finance, a novel new type of AMM, which is a blast.
So what was your motivation behind Hydro?
So our motivation behind Hydro is we love everything DeFi aims to solve, and we don't think that it's there yet. It really, what's holding it back is how AMMs don't really make sense. So we actually built Hydro because there's something else we want to build, and we would host liquidity on AMMs, and it would absolutely destroy everything in its wake because AMMs, the business models for them don't exist. In order to work, they have to have substantial liquidity on which people can trade. But in order to get that liquidity, they have to offer a token with a high enough valuation so that the APRs are high enough so that people will choose to provide liquidity. And they have zero ROI. They're never going to get revenue, let alone enough to justify the high valuations needed to bring in liquidity. And so what happens is these AMMs just eventually deprecate on the backs of people liquidity providing with their governance token, and people move on. So you see a really high turnover rate in AMMs. And as things like Olympus DAO or whatnot grow out more properly, instead of just hosting on Uniswap and taking trade fees, they will, and they're already starting to, go around to different AMMs, farm the governance token, sell them to the floor, and just move on, leaving them in their wake. And we wanted to build something that could survive these large term players and not just completely deprecate, so that we could then start building out larger DeFi applications on top of them.
So what is the roadmap? Where do you see Hydro Finance, let's say 2 years down the line?
2 years down the line, probably with $50 million plus of protocol-owned liquidity that has been earned from primarily from the inflation of the layer ones it supports. So kind of the idea with AMMs is they don't have any form of revenue to back the coin. And so we are tapping in through staking derivatives and through novel ways of scaling them, which is actually more efficient than something like Curve. Being able to tap into the inflation of the layer ones, which would then pay us. Somebody has to pay to keep the token price high, but nobody wants to be the one to have to pay it. And so we're codifying it from the layer one so that the liquidity is automatically paid for. It's all codified. And in 2 years down the road, it'll be fully live. We'll have protocols building bonds on top of us. We should have several hundreds of millions in liquidity, but like I said, close to 50 million in protocol owned.
So what do you want to do with all those funds?
So it'll be kind of cool because the DAO token, sure, everyone has a governance token that governs parameters, but they don't actually govern money. But we're actually setting it up so our DAO will govern the protocol and liquidity, and it's codified it's a Panamanian foundation where they're literally the beneficiaries of that treasury. They do genuinely own it and can do what they want. So it'll be interesting to see kind of what the community wants things to be spent on. We've already agreed to start sponsoring kind of a Cosmos wide community that's less tribalistic and more inclusive and more community building instead of infighting. And we've had some feedback hey, why should Hydro sponsor all that? Shouldn't these different L1s and everybody who benefits sponsor it? And our whole thing is if we're sponsoring it, we're paying with everybody's money because everyone's sponsoring us. And so we're really playing into the idea that AMMs are at their foundation a good and a service. And we want to be able to offer the best goods, the best services we possibly can. So we will be linking up with other wallets, other communication platforms, really anybody else that can offer services that have a difficult way of funding or like finding sustainable resourcing and helping resource them, because we have the resourcing built in so that we can combine and offer the best services possible to expand the growth of DeFi and Web3.
So talking about DeFi and Web3, how do you think it's going to change the world 5 years down the line?
Oh gosh, right. I hate the silo, the gatekeeping that that traditional finance has really put this stranglehold on anybody who's not upper class. Like if you don't have $250,000, you can't come trade here. And like I grew up poor, like I've been homeless. Like there's no reason that we shouldn't be a meritocracy and that people shouldn't be able to work their way up. And that's what cronyism is, and that's what the world has set up. And it's inefficient. It's purposefully inefficient in order to retain power. And I want to topple that system. And I want everybody to have an equal shot, or at least, I mean, obviously there's some kind of inheritance and there's some kind of like wealth accumulation, but I want everybody to be able to earn their way up and to get rid of any glass ceilings.
I think that is the whole ethos of Web3. That is what we all are striving to go for. We're going to be there.
I'm sorry?
We are going to be there soon. It's happening.
Yes, 100%. We get a little bit closer every way. And the reason we will win is it is more efficient. It is genuinely a better product. It is a better design. We have to get there, and we have to get there sustainably. As we've seen with like the Terra Luna collapse, and I guess just today, Celsius showing that they're insolvent, is people are so focused on growth that they're ignoring safety measures. And that's part of how Web 2 and how traditional finance has gotten where they are too. And we're going to see a lot of them collapse as well. And we have to make sure that from the ashes, we build something that will stand the test of time.
So talking about Luna, as an economist, what are the suggestions that you can give for people to, like right now, as the bear market is going to be there for a long time. So any advice for maybe investors on how to deal with it?
Get things that have genuine demand. So in the real world, commodities, and Web3 commodities, whatever it genuinely has utility. Try to avoid things that are purely speculative, find things that actually have revenue. You're going to see a lot of AMM governance tokens go down because they have no justification. That's why we're trying to build this up in the meantime. But yeah, as far as Terra Luna goes down, I actually did make a video on it on the Secret Code podcast, kind of describing what happens. But in general, think of scalability and security as opposites. And so if things scale really well and really quickly, there's a reason, and you should be hesitant of that. So try to find things that have utility, try to look for things with lower valuations or things that will be there at the other side of it, projects that have enough capital runway to continue building, because we will see lots of groups shut down. But Bitcoin is probably safe, especially with a hedge against inflation. It's not like the dollar's doing that much better. It's just everything's doing terrible.
It's going to be, I heard someone telling me that the crash is going to be worse than 2008. It's going to be a bad recession for the next 2 or 3 years. So I'm just like,
God, I wish I could be as optimistic as to think it's a recession. I mean, lots of like lots of normal economists that aren't like conspiracy theorists are at a point now where they're saying that it's likely that the global population will decrease by over 1 billion due to food shortages. In the United States this year, we've already seen 19 plants like get blown up or sabotaged in some degree. Worldwide yields are experiencing like 20% what their expected yield was. The food shortage is real and means a lot. The housing prices compared to median income is the highest it's ever been, like ever in history. It is a very difficult time to not be in the elite class. And I'm not sure what all the societal shakedowns will be globally where I am in the US. Like what, I don't know, but it's not going to be pretty.
I can just say wag me. It's going to be okay. On that note, I'll end this podcast. It was nice having you, Eric. I will have the link to the description of Secret Podcast. You can check out more cool stuff that Eric is doing. Thank you so much for your time. It was nice having you.
Thank you, Ashwarya. Good to be on.